Hi, I'm Joseph Harvey, the editor of Animal Pharm. I'm here in London at the Animal Health Europe Investment Conference. I'm here with Kathy Turner from IDEXX, and actually, Kathy, you haven't just been on one panel today, you've been on two. So what did those two panels cover?
Okay. Well, hi, Joe. Nice to meet you. I was on one panel that talked about the future of the veterinary practice, and then another panel that was about how leading companies in the industry see the future of veterinary medicine. So they were actually quite complementary. The first one, where we talked about the future of veterinary practices, we were talking about the types of technology that are going to be needed to help the veterinarians really practice better medicine, but more so than anything, also how the veterinarians can serve their clients' needs. Right? We've talked about the fact that millennials are now the largest segment of pet owners, and they're only going to become bigger.
Yeah.
They're willing to spend money, they've got very high demands, they're very well educated, and the way a veterinarian uses technology and the way a company like IDEXX uses and brings technology really makes a difference in helping these pets and these pet owners.
And the future of veterinary medicine, diagnostics is right in the middle of that.
Exactly, diagnostics is right in the middle of that. And there were two areas we talked about actually on both panels, was preventative medicine and predictive medicine. And we were talking about the future, but yet with diagnostics, we have got blood tests today that can help predict the onset of a disease.
Yeah.
We've got artificial intelligence and information management that helps bring everything together to be able to help a veterinarian determine, is this pet at risk? Should I be testing earlier? Should I be looking to prevent a disease before it actually occurs?
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of tools that are available today, and so we talked about some of those specifically.
And you mentioned millennials just now. I mean, how much of an influence is the consumer these days on what IDEXX does in its R&D plans? Is it all consumer focused? Is it a lot of it millennial focused?
When it comes to the R&D and the innovation, well, it comes to the R&D at IDEXX being primarily a diagnostic and diagnostic information company, we are focused on the medical needs. We're focused on unmet needs for the pets, primarily companion animals, dogs and cats. So when it comes to the product development, it's how to have the right tests to diagnose undiagnosed diseases, and how to make it easier for the veterinarian. We've got tests now where a plethora of information can be obtained within 10 to 15 minutes while the pet and the pet owner are in the clinic. So the right types of tests, and then making it easy for the veterinarian to do their job. Now, when it comes to the pet owner, the innovation comes with how do we help the veterinarian communicate with the pet owner. We've got tools that allow the veterinarian to use email or websites to transfer information to the pet owner. We've got tools that allow them to reach out to the pet owner and suggest that they come in because their dog is 7 years old and is at risk for XYZ disease. So the tools that we use to outreach are the ones that are now going to be focused more digital campaigns, right? Focused more on how to bring the millennials into the vets.
And when you talk about these trends, are you mainly focusing on North America, or are these global trends?
Most of these trends are very global. We always say people love their pets everywhere in the world. And particularly if you look at North America, you look at Western Europe, the amount of money that pet owners spend on products and services is pretty significant, and they're willing to continue to spend. Now we look at some of the emerging markets, that human-pet bond is growing more and more in these markets. And maybe they're a few years behind us in the Western markets, but that bond is still there. And the behavior of a 30-year-old, a 35-year-old with their dog, with their cat, is going to be quite similar.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's this whole new concept of wellness testing? What does that entail?
Well, what wellness testing does is it suggests that when you think about a dog or a cat, I'm a dog person, so I always speak about
Okay.
dogs. So when you think about a dog can't speak,
Yeah.
right? They can't tell us what's wrong. And traditionally, a pet owner might wait until the dog doesn't quite feel right. They're under the weather. Go into the veterinarian runs some blood tests and says, this is what we believe is wrong. But pets mask symptoms very, very well.
Right.
So, my 5-year-old dog may be acting perfectly normal. We go into the veterinarian. Wellness would be you go in for a checkup, get your annual vaccinations, and also do annual blood work. And the blood work basically allows you to see, is the pet healthy, yes or no, and how are the organs functioning? And it's so important because we've found through studies of hundreds of thousands of dogs that 1 in 4 seemingly healthy dogs, 1 in 4 of them have clinically significant abnormalities in their blood work, which require follow-up. Sometimes that follow-up is for something very acute. Other times it's showing the beginning of what will be a chronic condition. And as dogs and cats are living longer and longer now, just like humans, they're living longer, but they're getting diabetes, they're getting cardiac disease, they're getting renal disease.
Yeah.
So you can actually detect it or predict it earlier.
Yeah.
But you can't do that without, wellness testing. Test them while they're healthy, and then over time, you trend their blood results annually. And just one little change in 1 or 2 of the parameters can indicate that there might be something wrong.
And how well adopted is this wellness testing sort of plan?
We have a long way to go.
Okay.
Right? It's becoming more prevalent in the United States, and I would say countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, Germany are countries that they do some wellness to a certain extent when you have a geriatric pet. Most veterinarians would say any pet that's 8 years or older, I'm going to run annual blood work.
Okay.
But the idea of doing it when the pet is younger and consistently is an area that at IDEXX we're working very, very closely. We have we call it preventative care, but it's a complete program. So we can do bespoke tests for that particular clinic or that particular type of animal, so that you're using the right tests that are going to uncover the most potential diseases. We help with the right pricing strategy.
Right.
We help with all the communication materials and all the staff training, because it's not a one-time event. It's meant to keep that pet owner and the veterinarian engaged around the whole health and well-being of the pet.
And I suppose that just goes to show how much, even though the veterinary diagnostics business has grown in the last few years, there's so much more space to grow into.
There is so much more. As a matter of fact, we're very fortunate because there is so much more space to grow into.
Yeah.
When we look at the amount of blood that's being tested during a clinical visit, right now the whole industry is only about $5 billion, a little less than $5 billion. But if we look at the number of pets, we look at the amount of time that they go to a veterinarian and should be tested, whether it be for wellness or even sickness, the market should be close to $30 billion.
Wow. Which
so
is
you look at that
almost
runway.
the size of the animal health market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you do the math. So we've got a lot of runway, but that's going to take a lot of education. It's going to take education from companies like IDEXX, but others in the animal health industry. It's going to take us helping the veterinarians look at their businesses a little bit differently, and helping the pet owners understand the value of going to the veterinarian for prevention and not just when their pets are sick.
And finally, any big projects or anything we can expect from IDEXX in 2020?
Well, in 2020, we've actually just announced at the WVC conference in Orlando launch of a new digital cytology instrument, which is actually really exciting, talking about our innovation and making the lives of the veterinarian easier. Traditionally, if there was a little lump or a bump on the skin, the veterinarian aspirates it, they make a slide, they send the glass slide to the reference lab, and 2 or 3 days later you find out, is it potentially cancerous?
Okay.
Now, the product and the service that we just launched allows the veterinarian to aspirate the cyst, prepare the slide. They put the slide in an instrument. That slide is read the image goes through the web to our worldwide pathology services, and 24/7, that slide will be read by a pathologist, a board-certified pathologist somewhere in the world, and within 2 hours, the result is back to the veterinarian. And it takes stress away from the pet owner because they don't have to wait that long. If, God forbid, it's cancer, the veterinarian can start treatment immediately. So a lot of different options, and that's just one way of using the technology to give a better outcome, but also to make it so much quicker and easier for the veterinarian, and in this case also the pet parent. So that was pretty exciting, and you'll see more of that type of innovation that either uses technology or artificial intelligence to help us do our jobs better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Thank you.